Alright, welcome back folks. We are continuing on with our no DLCs Stellaris tutorial. We've explained the resource bar, we've explained the toolbar. Down the bottom we have buttons that I never use, they do things. Who knows what. Okay, that, okay. They let you click on things within the system, that's fine. But what we're here to discuss today are notifications. So along the top we've only got the 3 notifications at the moment. We've got notifications that our physics, society and engineering research is open and available. These are important reminders, and if ignored for too long can result in your wasting your research tech. Your researchers will sit in their labs and research nothing at all. They'll be busy on future mushroom people's Facebook. Oh, Spacebook, there we go. They're busy on Spacebook. And we'll let your research points go to waste. So whenever you see one of these, it's important to select it. Selecting it will open up the technology window that we saw last time, and we'll open up the research screen for the corresponding tech sphere, I guess. So clicking on the physics icon opens up the physics research window, and we're automatically able to choose from the 3 options that our scientists have managed to concoct for future research. For science, for physics, our researcher is researching anything effectively. He gets plus 10 bonus on any type of research, so we can choose whatever we like right here. It's going to cost us I don't know why this is costing us more. Did I increase? Maybe I increased our tech costs. That'd be it. Yeah. Okay. So because I increased our tech costs at the beginning of the game, these are costing more. The base is 2,500, but the cost is 3,125. People better than me at maths will be able to do the calculation on that. Hang on, I can do it from this one probably. I increased our cost by 0.25. Maybe? Is that how that works? Maybe by point... No, it's going to be by 0.25. Yeah, increase it by a quarter, so it costs a quarter more, so it costs an extra 500. That sounds right to me. So, we can see the options in here. The various options have... I guess if these are spheres, then these are branches of research. You can have scientists, researchers who are good at particles and at field manipulation and at computing. We don't have any of those, but we do have a dude who's good at everything. So whatever we choose here is fine. I'm going to choose the cheapest one because that will land sooner, and because it costs less, it's going to occur sooner, 93 months, and it will give us a permanent bonus for the rest of the game for every one of our researchers in the physics area. They'll do an extra 20% research. They'll do an extra 20% physics research for the rest of the game, and it's the cheapest, and we like it. For society, this guy has a bonus which only gives him longer life. That's cool because it means he's going to continue leveling up for longer. But in the short term, he's not very helpful to us. He's only giving us a research speed bonus of plus 2%, where this guy is giving us a research bonus of plus 10 for Spark of Genius, plus 2 for Science Skill, and then Materialist, our ethic that we chose at the beginning of the game. Materialist gives us another 5% there. So this guy is going to give us a total of plus 7 regardless of what we choose. because he doesn't have any kind of specialization. Out of the options here, I'm going to go for that similar type. Neither of these are particularly important. That one, very unimportant. And that one allows the building of some building types, but we're not too fussed about those. Oh, that's the point. Okay, so when I said previously that you'll never get food resources from space, incorrect. We could build a hydroponics bay, but I don't know if I've ever built one in this game because it's a terrible waste of a very finite resource of a starbase buildings. They're few and far between, where food is very easy to make on planets. But the option that we're going to choose for this guy is the society research, so we get a permanent bonus to all of our science research, our society research for the rest of the game. And it's one of the 2 cheapest. We'll choose that one. Engineering. This guy does have a bonus within the engineering field. We can tell that because this bonus is a orangey brown color. I should mention now that I am awful with colors. So, yep, brown is how I've always termed it in my head. He is one of within the engineering type schools, branches of research, of specializations. So hopefully, ooh, look, yep, we do. We do have a Voidcraft option. This option will help us, in fact, this entire branch helps us build, or helps us get towards research which improves our spaceships and our star bases. They're both they're very important areas to research. But early on, as we have with the other 2 techs, going for a permanent research bonus for the rest of the game, it's probably slightly more important. So we could go for this guy, and he'd give us a 15% bonus to his research speed, and it would take 120 months. Yeah, that 22% bonus is really nice. Or we could go for this, and it's going to take 110 months. For 10 months worth of research, he's going to do an extra 625 points of research. It's pretty cool. That's a real coin toss. I don't know what to do. We're going to do this because it makes sense to get permanent bonuses for the rest of the game. The reason why this decision is important is because this option may disappear. When you've chosen an option and gone down that path for a few months, the options above can change out. If I'm not much mistaken, it's very rare that I change research during the research process. I'll usually let them finish, but we're going to check that because I'm now interested. I don't know exactly how that mechanic works. I just know that if you don't choose a research, it can and maybe will disappear. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for the meantime, we've set up our research options. We are good. The other options that the other alerts that we'll see along the top here, we can get alerts for finding anomalies. Anomalies are the things that we would see in this window. We can see alerts for special projects and event chains, and we'd be able to trace those through there. Clicking on the notification would lead us to that window. Other things we can see up there is we can see when we're about to run out of resources. We can see when the automated trades that we've set up are not going to occur because they're not meeting the parameters. We can see declarations of war. We can see diplomatic offers from other species. There's lots and lots of things will pop up as notifications, and we'll encounter them as we go through them. But keeping an eye up here, keep an eye to the heavens. It's where we get all of the most important information in the game. So the rest of this video, what I want to do is talk about our civilian ships. We've got two different types of civilian ships. Is that right? Yep, those are our only civilian ships. And remain so through the game. The first one is the construction ship. The construction ship can be used to build star bases, the things that allow us to claim other star systems and expand our influence and basically reach to the stars. As I mentioned previously, the outposts, not star bases, the outposts that construction ships build cost both alloys, as we see here, but they also have a influence cost, and the influence cost will change depending on a variety of factors, including your ethics and your edicts and your traits. No, not traits. What's the other thing? Your ethics and your civics and your traits. So there's a good amount of variety there. There's also several traditions that you can buy through Unity, which will reduce your outpost build costs, but by and large they stay relatively the same through the game, to the best of my knowledge, if I'm not forgetting anything. So that's the most important thing that construction ships do. After that is building the mining stations and the research stations that we've discussed before. These are the stations that capture resources passively per month, each month, and that's exactly what we're going to have this one do. Typically, I won't do this from this window. There's other ways of doing all of these things from the galaxy view, the galaxy map, but right now we'll go, we can set our construction ship to build a mining station over here because minerals are needed to build everything. If we have a look over here, I right clicked on the system and it gave me the option to build a mining station. That mining station has a cost associated. That cost is 100 minerals to build this mining station. The monthly upkeep is going to be 1 energy per month, and that will so we're paying 1 energy per month, and we'll end up with 3 minerals per month. Every mining station has a cost associated. If we have a look down here, the same thing, and the build cost and an upkeep cost, and they're basically the same. Depending on, there's a couple of things that can change those. There's some text that can change those. There's some ruler traits that can change how much things cost, as we'll see a bit later on. But for this one, at the moment, we're paying 100 to, and then 1 per month, 1 energy per month, to get 3 minerals every month. So he'll fly across the system, hover above the planet, and build a mining station, just like this one here. Nope, that's a research station. Just like that one there. If we zoom in, we can see what a what a mining station looks like. It's pretty cool. So what we'll be doing with our construction ship early on is we'll be going through and grabbing all of these resources which are within our current sphere of control. So we've got 1 mineral source, 1 energy source, and 1 research source to gather. I think we should have something else as well, and maybe hidden. Mineral research and research. Sorry, I think there should be one more research. Let me have a quick look. No, it is. It is just the energy, minerals, and research that we're missing. So he's happy doing his thing. The other, we can queue commands with him as well, I should say. If I'm holding down the left shift button at the moment, and then I right click over here, I can say after you've built that, go and build this. But the problem is, we've spent all of our minerals on this mining station. That's the reason I've focused minerals. Minerals are hard to come by early on in the game, become less so after you've got a good supply of off-planet and on-planet minerals coming in. But right now, ours is awful, and so we're going to have to wait some months to do this other expansion. So we won't queue any commands for our construction ship. Our other civilian ship that we have is our science ship. This is the Duraeus. This is the science ship we saw that our leader, our scientist, Flora Garland, was commanding. And now we know where she is. She's out here on a science ship. And a science ship's job is to do all of the exploration that happens in the game. Science ships can be from in here. We can right click on an unknown place. We can say explore the system, in which the science ship will go into the system, check for big baddies, for extraterrestrial baddies that might eat us, be they pirates or wild aliens, I guess is a way to describe it, and then move on to the next system once they've finished exploring. Or we can have them survey a system. Surveying a system will allow us, once a system is fully surveyed, and it takes a couple of days per planetary body, or I guess per astrological body within a system, to investigate. And once all of the planetary bodies in a system have been investigated, the system will become termed surveyed, and we'll be able to build a starbase there, safe in the knowledge that there's no surprises that are going to murder our starbase. Because starbases cost so much to build, you need to go through and survey a system before you build one, I guess would be the in-game rationale. Which direction you go really doesn't matter when you've got this many hyperlanes. Ordinarily, my guess would be we'd have 3 connections. We might have that connection, and that connection, and that connection, perhaps. The shorter connections. But because I turned up that the hyperlane connections, they're bloody everywhere. So it doesn't really matter where we go in this case. Well, I guess we could argue that it might be advantageous for us to cut across the system, across the galaxy, from the center of the galaxy to the outside. Yeah, because we're a ring, that might make a bunch of sense. Typically, with an elliptical galaxy, the galaxy will be spread a bit wider, and you'll do things a bit differently. But that's for a later conversation. Let's have a look out. I feel like let's go to the nearest system. We'll go across there and survey. In fact, let's do it from within the system view. If I right click on one of these, I go survey. He's going to do the same job. I reflexively went out to the galaxy view because that's where I usually work from. But what other options, what other functions do our 2 civilian ships have? Beyond surveying, which is the vast majority and the most important thing that science ships do, we also use science ships to research anomalies and to do research projects. So, special projects and anomalies, as we've mentioned, are found in here, and they need a scientist in a manned science ship to investigate them. Science ships can also aid your research, so typically once you've got a planet set up and a reasonable amount of research coming out of it, it makes sense to dedicate a scientist and a science ship to aiding the research on that planet. It's a 10% bonus, which is massive for the expense of a leader who costs 2 energy per month, and a science ship which costs 100 alloys and nothing else for the rest of the game. To give a 10% bonus to a planet is huge, so I highly recommend doing that. That's another very important function. Other options they've got is automatic exploration. If you've learned the automatic exploration protocols technology, you can just click that button and they'll I've never quite managed to anticipate where automated exploration will go. It's less efficient than what you can plan as a human player, but it's a handy thing to do later on in the game when you've got a bunch of science ships and they've got nothing to do. And then experimental subspace navigation. You can use experimental subspace navigation to jump over or to jump through systems. Say we had built, or say an enemy empire had built a row of star bases along there, we wouldn't be able to go through their territory. They would prevent us from going through there. They'd close their borders, prevent us from going through their territory. We could use the experimental subspace navigation button to jump across that barricade, that blockade, that border to another system, and it would take as long as it would for us to fly through it normally. I think there's actually a penalty on using subspace navigation, I'm not sure. But it's very useful, and only science ships can do it. I think that's everything I wanted to explain about science ships. I should say that surveying only takes a few days. Researching anomalies, depending on the difficulty of the anomaly, which we'll see as soon as we see some anomalies, can take years, literal years in the game. So be aware of research times for both research projects and anomalies. They're quite important. Other things that construction ships can do beyond outposts and research, outposts, mining stations, and research stations are observation posts. We haven't seen, and we are unlikely to see for a while, observation posts, but I should mention them because they're a thing in the game. Basically, they are research stations for planets where creatures live. So there'll be non-spacefaring societies, civilizations will be bound on a planet, and we'll be observing them and investigating them and getting a lot of society research from them. Yeah, and we'll go into those later on as we need to. Oh, I should mention fleet stances. Fleet stances are set as, for civilian ships, are set as evasive by default. That means if there's anything scary in a system, they'll immediately flee it because they don't want to get eaten, which is sensible. You can click that button and change their stance to passive. That means they'll just do their job and will get murdered if anything hostile comes near them. So it's safest to leave them on evasive, but there's reasons to take them off evasive. Especially science ships, you can't use experimental subspace navigation without changing to a passive fleet stance. So yeah, keep that in mind. The last and most interesting thing, that construction ships can do is build megastructures, but Megastructures don't come into the game until very late on, or yeah, it is. It's always late game. Yeah. So very far down the... Oh, no, that's not true. There are some... Basically, megastructures are big, cool things you build in space. And you use a construction ship to do them, and they take ages. But, yeah, it's very interesting, very cool, very fun. So those are the... so that's the rundown that I wanted to give you guys. I am going to talk about the gateway when our science ships explore out a little bit more, because my summation of planets and planetary bodies and stars in a system is incorrect. There's a wee bit more to it. We've also got to think about gateways and about wormholes, but we'll talk about those when we see them. And I'll be back in the very near future with our next installment. See you then.